Welcome back to another video. Boy, have we got a project for you guys today. This is going to be a big one. You're looking at our dining room wall there on the left. It's about an 8-foot wall and it's pretty empty, as you can see. We want to build some floor to ceiling cabinets. Gina wants places to put things. Imagine that. There's not much storage room in these Florida houses, and so we want to build more storage, and we're just in the middle of planning this out, so we want to show you what we're thinking. But like I say, there'll be floor to ceiling. We'll have 3 cabinets and a base level and then the top cabinets. So the first 2 will be about 30 inches wide each, and then the one in the corner will be about 36 inches wide. The base cabinets will be shorter, somewhere around 40-45 inches. And then the tall ones will take up the rest of the space up to the ceiling. The 8-foot length will work well for materials. So we're excited to get this started. So join us on this adventure, stay tuned, and we'll show you how this evolves.
We're going to relocate the thermostat on this wall from over here so we can make room for cupboards on that wall. But I got drilling through one of the studs on this corner, and they've run cables right down this entire corner. Not sure what the purpose of that is. Somebody was being really sneaky, so we're just going to relocate it just close to the corner here, and we'll just have to cut those cabinets a bit short on that wall. So that's where we are for now.
Hello again, and welcome back to the channel. Just wanted to give you an insight into our dining room cabinets. These are going to be huge cabinets, and it's going to be a big project. I just wanted to take a minute and walk you through the plans of what we have in mind, what our vision is, so you can get excited with us. So let's take a look. All right, let's start right here. This is the finished look. So we are going to have basically 3 sections. So this one and this one are 2 separate sections. They have a single door that opens. And then the third section is bigger. These are 30-inch sections, 30 inch. This one is 36. It will have double doors that will open outward. And then the bottom section will have breathable material in here, rattan. And that's because we have a furnace intake right here that we need to be able to have breathe. So we'll talk through that a little bit more as we get going, but that is the overview. And this was just the rough layout of the doors that I made. Here is, well, this is my fascia. This is the sizes and how it's all going to be laid out to finish the outside surfaces once we get the rough cabinet boxes in. But let's start with the cabinet boxes. So here's our quick design on the cabinet boxes. My sides showing where my dados are, my rabbits, and then a side view here showing my back dado for the back panel insert. It's all here. That's the left side. And then our 36-inch wide cabinet, I just drew out the dados separately because they're a little bit different. And let's see what else we got here. So I always do a material layout design, basically a 4x8 sheet of melamine, and how will I cut those out to save the most amount of material. And so that's my layout. And then when we get done with that, then we have to plan out our doors. And here's a rough look of our doors. We've got our roll of rattan. How will that fit? So we got to figure all that out. And then of course we've got the frames themselves. So this just gives you an idea. I know that we've got plans all over the place. And we've the top panels will have inserts in them. Right now the only material I have available is a 3/16 inch plywood, which we'll use. It's hard to find cabinet supplies in this area, so we have to make modifications where we can. And then of course the bottom panel, or the bottom door, is just a frame only. There will be no panel because of the rattan that I'll put in later. So that just gives you an overview of this project and what it's going to look like. So will it really look like that? Well, hopefully it'll look better, right? That's the expectation. So we're going to get started. We're going to jump into cutting out some of these pieces and running our dados first. So let's get going. As you can see here, I've been able to move out of the single car side of the garage and into the 2-car side of the garage. This has been a great blessing. We had this area stacked floor to ceiling from moving in. We've been able to go through all the boxes, and so now that the pantry's done, been able to focus on unpacking, and here we go. We are deep into another project. So what I'm doing right now, I'm just getting set up to cut the width of the base cabinet sides, the sides of the cabinet boxes. We're making these out of melamine, just like we used for the shelves in the pantry, but these will be full cabinet boxes this time. I'm not really set up for a cabinet shop type setup. For these small cabinets, it's not a big deal, but it's going to be a challenge when I get into the big ones. So I've got my temporary section going for sawdust, saw blades going, and now we're just going to take, I've got 4 of these because we have 2 cabinets, so two cabinets that are 30 inches wide. And right now I'm just going to cut these to length. I've already cross-cutted them with my skill saw for the proper height. And now we'll just trim these down to be a proper depth. It's pretty hot right now too. This is the middle of the summertime and we're in Florida. The humidity is, well, let's just say it takes some getting used to. So most of these boards will be embedded with literally blood, sweat, and tears. It's important to have all your plans designed ahead of time so that when you're cutting, you're able to cut all of your like widths at the same time. And having said that, I know I said I had 4 of these, so why am I only cutting 3? Well, I guess that'll be the mystery of the video. Maybe I already did the first one before we started filming. Pushing that final one through, removing the waste. So I've got a method through this whole project. We'll be moving stacks of boards from one side of the garage to the other side as we move through different segments of the process. So we're cutting the width now, and next we're going to set up the router table. Alright, we are now setting up the router table. It's time to cut the slot, or the dado, for our back panel. We've got a new spiral drill bit. I believe it's a 3/16 inch. Originally I wanted to use 1/4 inch back panels, but I can't buy anything in my area that meets those specifications. So we've had to settle on this 1/8 inch panel. And I tried some test slots with an 1/8 inch bit, and they were just too tight. So we moved up a 1/16 of an inch. I bought a 3/16 inch spiral bit. So this is my new JESSM automatic adjusting height router table base. This thing is the coolest thing since sliced butter. Well, melted sliced butter, that is. Not hard out of the fridge sliced butter. So as you can see here, I just crank the handle and the router moves up, raising my bit. I'm raising it all the way up right now so that I can remove, looks like I had a roundover bit in it for, probably Gina's ironing board project, which I built for her. And wouldn't you know, I forgot to film it. But at least you get to see the bit I used. Isn't that exciting? And my apologies, I should have had a close-up of all this for you, and I just didn't think of it at the time. So look really close, make your screen big, zoom in, dropping that bit in now. So I have the 1/4 inch collet in my router. A lot of these bits are 1/4 inch base. I buy the 1/2 inch when I can, but some of these smaller bits, it just doesn't call for it. It's overkill. So we've got the router bit secured, and now we need to lower the bit back down into the table. Once you get it in place, this router plate has the ability to lock it in so it doesn't move. It's a real time saver. I waited a long time before I built a router table, and building it into the table saw was just the smartest thing I ever did. Again, a project I forgot to film. Apologize about that. Now we're going to adjust the height. These little height tools are just the cat's meow. I don't have a cat, but if I did, it would be the cat's meow. These things are amazing. So this is specifically made for adjusting the height of a router or a similar tool that you can adjust up and down like a saw blade on a table saw as well. And they're stepped. They're pre-measured. And so I'm just setting it over the top of my router bit, and I'm raising the bit until I touch my adjustment block. And it gives me an exact, see, I just hit it there with the bit, knocked it over. So it gives me an exact height without having to try and read my square or my tape measure. And it just really speeds things up and makes it more accurate. In fact, I believe I bought this off Amazon, so check the link below on where to get these. Obviously, there are expensive ones and there are Chinese ones. And for this kind of thing, I opted for the cheaper ones. I've tested I've measured them all to make sure that the measurements are accurate, and they're all accurate measurements, so they work fine for what I'm doing. So now that we've got the height adjusted, now it's time to set up the fence. I do have that on the wrong side though, so we're going to move it over. So when it comes to adjusting your blades from your fence, they make a spacer block for that too, and that's what I've got now. And these aren't stepped up, these are just thick blocks of aluminum that have pre-written measurements on them. And so I believe I've got this dado set up to be, well, 3/4 of an inch from the back of the cabinet. That will give me room to put in my 3/4 inch plywood nailer boards at the top and the bottom of the back of the cabinet. And then this backer will slide into the dado slots right in front of those nailer boards. Now that we have all our setup done, it's time to do some testing. I always like to use the scrap wood and test my measurements. So now I'm testing not only the depth of my dado cut, but I'm testing to see whether my dado cut is in the right place. Remember, I need 3/4 of an inch between the edge of that dado slot and the back of the board. So we're just measuring our 3/4 inch. And we're good there, but let's try a real world test. So I couldn't find a scrap wood, so I just grabbed the entire length of my cutout. I have a whole pile of these for the nailer boards. These are 4-inch wide rip cuts of my 3/4 inch birch plywood. So this is the actual product that will be used for the nailer board, and I'm just setting it up on my test piece to see how it fits in between the edge of the board and the edge of my slot. Now we're going to try a real piece of the actual product that will be the back or the back of the cabinets to see how it fits in the slot. Once we're satisfied with that, we're going to make a few adjustments because we're just a little wide on our cut. So I need to narrow down the distance between the back of the board and my slot. So this will be our second pass. We're going to cut a new dado slot on the other side of the board. And we'll test that spacing. You notice I've got my hearing protection on. I've tried all different types, and the good old earmuffs just seem to be the easiest and quickest to put in and to take off, even though they're a little bit obnoxious. So my second pass still wasn't there, so we're going to try a third. So I figure it's always easier to start wide and then sneak up on it because it's much harder to go the other way, especially if you're not doing a test piece. So we're going to try this one more time, put up our nailer board, test the distance. And I think we're good. Just double checking the slot. So with this testing out of the way, that means we have everything set up where it needs to be, and we're ready to start cutting some dado slots in our side pieces. We should have 8 of these. Alright, so this is real time now. We are cutting the actual dado slots in the back of our cabinet side. And we're taking this slow because this is a small bit and it's a heavy board. And you push too hard on this size of a bit and you can snap it right off. Ask me how I know. I didn't actually snap one off while I was cutting. I actually forgot that I had it sticking up in my table saw, and I slid the fence right across it. it snapped right off. So lesson learned, be gentle with these small bits. Well, be gentle with any bit because you don't want to dull the edge on them or give them any reason not to cut straight or smooth. So we're just pushing slowly, being very patient. Like I say, I've got 4 of these to cut for the 2 first base cabinets and then another 2 to cut for the bigger base cabinet. Now that we have those back panel dados cut, we're cutting the larger dados for the shelves. And these are approximately 3/4 inches, and I say approximately because millimeter is a little thicker than regular plywood. So we actually have to cut these and then make a small pass to widen the slots a little bit. But I've got 3 of these to cut on each panel.
Alright, well, we got this cabinet assembled. This is our first one at the bottom level. And I guess I shouldn't have closed the garage door before showing you this view, but there's our inside. We've got a bottom shelf and a middle shelf. And so that one's ready to go. I just need more clamps. If I had more clamps, we could do all 3 of these at the same time, but until then, it's one at a time.
Those 3 small base cabinets went together pretty quick. But when I got to these big ones, ooh, I ran into some challenges. My table saw is just not big enough. I don't have everything I need to accurately cut dados in wood this long. And it was a real challenge. I had to develop some new processes to make it work. But as you can see here, I had the 3 base ones put in, and then I took a length of 3/4 inch plywood and laid horizontally across the top of those to help give more rigid strength with the weight that would be on the top cabinets. And this turned out to be a good thing. When we put that corner cabinet in, it just slid right in. It barely fit. Right here, you can see how we have all 3 of them together. And we use Shiplap to blend in the edge of the cabinet to the wall. And it worked out just splendidly.
Good job, Randy.
So it was time for another trip to the hardware store. We came back with a stack of shiplap for the kitchen wall and trim for our fascia for these cabinets. Finally, time to put the fascia on. So we're using poplar here, This is all pre-cut, pre-finished, sanded on all sides. And I love this stuff because it's square, it's even, it's smooth, it's affordable, and it's paintable. So we use this for all our painting projects, and it goes on really nice. So now it's just a matter of laying things out. I've got a diagram of how this fascia is going to lay out. And as you can see here, it went on really nicely. I did all the lateral or horizontal pieces. Well, let me rephrase that. I started at the bottom. We put on the bottom piece. And then we did the middle piece that went in between the two layers of cabinets. And then we did the top piece. So those are all continuous layers. Unfortunately, this wall is 8 feet long or just shy of it. So they fit, one piece fit nicely. And then from there, we did the uprights in between those two sections. And then after the uprights, I sandwiched in the shelf facing. Now I didn't, usually I pre-make my fascia using pocket holes like we did in the pantry and build the whole thing in one piece and then put it up there. But this was just so big, it just didn't make sense. And so I pieced this one at a time. Everything was glued and nailed in. And then, of course, painted. The wind was not our friend today. I tried doing the same process that I used when we painted the bed, and this time we just had wind that was out of control. I mean, look at that thing spin. It was a nightmare. Eventually, I did get it all painted, but I don't think we'll try this again. We're going to have to set up some kind of booth in the garage and get our painting done. But this process, the doors went together pretty quickly. I cut all the rails and stiles on my table saw and just slid in that 3/16" piece of plywood. And they turned out a lot better than I thought they would. Just a word to the wise, I did use real hardwood poplar for the rails and stiles. I was going to use MDF, and I thought they'd be too heavy, but the MDF just, it doesn't warp, it doesn't bend. And I think in hindsight, when we do the next cabinet doors, I will use MDF. It's just a better product for rails and stiles. Next, it was time to mount our hinges. I found this really cool jig off Amazon from Joinery. It has a built-in Forstner bit for drilling out the hole for the recess hinges, and it has the guide holes for your mounting hardware. It made it really slick. It was affordable. This thing is well made and well designed. It has a built-in clamp. You can see the holes here, the big hole for the bloom hinges and the two mounting holes. It worked really nice. When I priced out hinges, I was a little sticker shocked, but I did find some affordable ones on Amazon that worked quite well. They came in an entire set just right for what I needed for my doors. And so we got the hinges mounted, put the doors on, got them all adjusted, and it really turned out nicely. It didn't take all that long to adjust and align the doors, but as you can see, there's our finished product. We've got the solid panel doors on the top and the Rattan doors on the bottom. We have the shiplap along the wall on the left side. It really brought everything together nicely. We're really pleased with how it turned out. Hello there. So as you can see behind me, I have our dining room cabinets. And this is after they're finished. And I wanted to walk you through some thoughts about your furnace intake. So many of you live in homes where you have a furnace intake on a prominent wall in your house, sometimes your living room. In fact, in a lot of cases, your living room. In our neighborhood, we live in a new neighborhood, and less than 5 years in, we've had several people who've had to replace their furnaces. And the diagnosis in every case is restricted airflow. So I want to talk about that for just a minute, and I want to show you what we did with our wall. So I'm going to take myself off the camera, and we'll take a closer look at what's going on here. When I talk about restricted airflow, there are primarily two ways you can restrict the airflow to your furnace intake. The first one, and the most obvious, is people put furniture, cabinets, too close to the air intake and they block the airflow. So that's an easy fix. You need to space those out. If you were to read manufacturer's instructions, they would probably tell you 10 inches, but I think if you had 5-6 inches of airflow in between your cabinet and your wall, I know it loses some room space, but if you want your furnace to last, it's important. Besides that, you've got to get in there frequently to change your filter and clean things out. So that's one thing. The other reason is people are using air filters that are too restrictive. Nowadays, you have all these really high, HEPA filters and allergy filters and pollen filters and multi-layer filters that just block out every single thing you could imagine, but they also restrict the airflow so much that the furnace has to work harder to suck the proper amount of air in that it needs to distribute through your house. So I highly recommend you do some research. I started out with a very, very entry-level air filter so that I didn't restrict airflow, but after a few months of using it, I realized it also wasn't filtering out enough. And so I did some more research, and I found a filter that basically was kind of the middle of the range. It's not too restrictive, but it filters enough that it gets the particles out that you need, and but not too much to restrict airflow. So this has been working for us so far, and I'm going to show you how we change that. But so here's how we solve this situation. There are two reasons we designed our cabinets this way. On the top, we have solid panel shaker doors, and on the bottom, we put this fancy material in here that breathes. And one was for design, yes, because as it turns out, we've got several things in the house that actually use this design. A lot of our cabinets, some of the chairs. So it blends in with the decor anyway. But the biggest reason was airflow, because with this cabinet right here, we covered up our air intake for our furnace. And so this is how we solved it. So I designed this so that I can open this cabinet and I can change my air filter. Nothing's in the way. I don't have to move furniture. Yes, it depends on what you store in this cabinet. Sometimes, I do have to clear this top shelf, but I just have a couple of big food storage buckets that sit on top of there. So it's not a big deal. And let me show you how this works. So the way I designed this cabinet is that this middle shelf only goes back halfway. That gives me room so that I can get in here and I just reach in and I undo my levers. This pops forward. It just leans against my shelf. I grab my filter and I've got room for it to come right out, just like that. And then I take my new one and I just do the reverse. I just come in here And it takes me, it takes a little bit more time to adjust it and get it in the right place. That one went quickly. And then I lock it up. And it's that simple. I also have space to vacuum this off and clean it off every month as well. I did that for the video, of course, so it looks cleaner. Now, a couple of things I ran into as I designed this. I had the initial concept and had to adjust a few things as I went. One of those is we split this side cabinet into two pieces, into two doors. The other cabinets have one big door on them, and this is actually a bigger cabinet by 6 inches. So we split it into two doors. And so I just designed this part so that we have a divider down here, but not on the top, so that I can get that furnace filter in and out. So you ask the question, well, is there enough support for that shelf? You've got a 36-inch span. What if you put something heavy on it? And at first I didn't think that would be a problem, but as I thought about it, I thought, well, better safe than sorry. So I simply just cut a support board, and it's in there loose, and I can slide it to any position I need to accommodate what I'm storing on that bottom shelf. But I still get the back support on this top shelf, and it works just fine. So if you do something like this, just consider what needs to be done. And to make up for the lack of the center divider on the top, basically just take and attach a piece of 1/4 inch ply here on the top of the door, and when you close it, it fills in that space, and when you shut that door, it looks normal. So that's how we accomplish this, and just one creative way that you might be able to solve your furnace intake breathing problem. We chose to put cabinets on this wall. Some people like to put furniture, but in our case, we don't have a lot of storage, and this was one way to solve that problem. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Just food for thought for some of you that may be designing something like this. Well, here we are. This is the final reveal for the dining room cabinets. So, Miss Gina, tell us about this project.
Well, we needed some more storage space because in the Florida homes, we just don't have basements. So we came up with this idea to take about 2 feet out of this room because we had plenty of room for this table. And we added these cabinets. And you'll see how we finished it with shiplap on this side. I should say Randy has finished this with shiplap. But anyways, these cupboards hide.
Wait a minute. You did smile at me while we were doing it.
What do you mean?
And you kissed me. You helped.
Oh, yes. I gave instructions of how to do that. He did such a good job. I love it. I really love how these turned out. This wall is flush. It looks finished on that side. And then you come here, and these are just modern, clean. I do love the Battenberg. One of the things about these is they needed to be breathable. This has our big storage.
You can show those.
Big. So this is food storage, and we just have excess on hand just because in case there's an emergency. That's what we believe in, is having extra. So flour, rice, beans, that's all down here, and we rotate all of this, and that's what's in all of these cupboards down here. So this whole thing, and then of course these, which has the vent that I'm not going to show you, but Randy will show you. So, because this all has to breathe. But again, these are all flour, sugar, rice, and beans. I think that's all that we have. And then in these cupboards here, we've got, can you see in this one? We've just
open them both so we can see them.
This is like the extra from the pantry. There's a pantry on the other side. I just keep what I use in there. And then this is the extra. So like in this side, it's got like some baking goods, extra product, oatmeal, flour, a few things. Yeah, all kinds of stuff. Noodles, pastas, Meats, there's some canned chicken, tuna. And then on this side, let's see what I've got. I think I've got like vegetables. Oh, but they're really easy to open. No handles. I wanted it really clean. I didn't really want visually to be able to see these. I just wanted them to look good and blend into this space. So this has got beans, and you can see all kinds of things. A few excess on top. Yeah, I guess there's like potatoes, soups, corn. I only buy what we eat and use. So tomatoes, all kinds of beans, and then tomato sauces, ketchup, mustard, coconut milk, coconut oils, and then on the very top you can see there's olive oil. And then in this one,
we almost saw that.
Almost. Did you need to see it?
Well, if you tell us it's there, we're going to believe you.
And then there's paper goods. Paper goods on the top. And you can get to this. This is all accessible by a ladder, which I use throughout the house. I have to have a ladder to get, because we've got 9-foot ceilings, so everything's pretty high.
So is it one of those ladders that's so heavy it takes 2 of us to carry?
No, it's just a really lightweight one. We should show that because I have them in several places in the home, and I use them to climb.
Okay, go get it, baby. We want to see it.
Oh, you want to see it?
You want to see it?
Okay. I just keep it in this storage room. And
that's not just any storage room. That's
and
your
it's super lightweight. Like I can use this. Really easy to pop down, pop up. So yeah, that's what I use.
We might be able to put a link in the description for that too.
Yeah, it's like I said, this is really lightweight, and I can use it, and I can get up to reach all of this stuff up here. So, and then I've got like cooking ingredients, salts, baking powder, starch, peanut butter, cocoa, and I don't keep a lot of excess on some of them. And then spices, just extra spices that we use, fruits, and milks. So yeah, that's how we organize, and this is just an overflow of the kitchen area, and it helps not keep the kitchen cluttered.
That is so impressive.
I think he did a really exceptional job. I just love this. What do we call this?
Rattan.
Boy.
There's 2 names for it. Rattan and gee, the last video I did, I couldn't remember what it was called either.
I can't, but it's Rattan. We have it on the chairs right there. So it's in a few spots in the house, but I like it. It kind of gives a Florida vibe.
Well, we've got, these chairs came with it. And then even the TV cabinets here aren't rattan, but they have the similar look. And so, and we've got a form of it here too, huh?
Yeah.
So but it does tie in, doesn't it?
Yeah, I really like it. And again, we had to have something that was breathable. Anyways, I love them. They look great.
So what's our next big cabinet project?
We are working on the laundry. Is that what you want? Yeah, we're working on the laundry.
That sounds exciting.
That's going to be really good because that's a lot of storage space too that we need. So.
That sounds like a big tease. Does that mean your handyman has to hurry up and get it done?
He better get it done. I've been waiting a while for this one.
Okay, we'll see what we can do.
Okay.
Thanks for showing us your dining room cabinets, babe.
Them.
All right. So stay tuned for the next one.